What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 9 at Free Lady. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for participating. We got a guest right here. You see that? This is Zach. He owns Official Military Skate. He's going to talk all about it. So today we're just going to dive into how he became where he's at right now to become a free man. And I'm excited. Y'all excited? So if you have any questions after this, drop the comments below and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Of course, we got to start out with 3 things that we're grateful for. Number 1, I'm grateful that I got this guy. He's my first interview. We just met like 2 weeks ago through my brother. It's pretty cool. Second thing that I'm grateful for is that, you know, we live in a beautiful state, even though California is doing some weird stuff. Just kidding. I love Cali. Obviously, I'm from there. But, you know, we live in a beautiful place. Number 3, what I'm grateful for is a busy day at work. I'm always grateful for that, changing people's lives, making them feel beautiful and confident with new haircuts and styles or colors. So that's what I'm grateful for today. Zach, you can share one thing you're grateful for if you want, or you don't have to.
Okay. I was expecting you to ask me 3, so I was trying to think of 3 in my head.
I'll just give you one. You're a dude.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna say laughter. I'm
nice.
grateful for the ability to enjoy life and laugh at myself and laugh at other things. And yeah.
I laugh at myself all the time.
I was gonna go with that or grilled cheese sandwich.
Ooh. I mean, that could be your number 2. You can have 2.
Oh, yeah, I'll go with 2 for today.
Yeah. So tell us about yourself. Who are you? What's your name? What do you do? And how did you get to where you are today?
Okay. So my name is Zachary Sales. I go by Zach. So what do? I do a lot of stuff. So my primary job is a computer network infrastructure engineer. I design, or I work on a development team that designs the network infrastructure for the Navy's unit level and platform level ships, for their, the big like carriers and destroyers and things like that. So I work on a team of about 10 to 12 people. We design the computer network infrastructure for those ships. We test them before somebody else builds them and create the concept, proof of concept, things like that. That's my primary job. Outside of that, I skateboard. If anybody knows me, they know I skateboard. That's my niche, my thing. So I run a social media page called Official Military Skate. It is the official original home of military skateboarding. So there's like a lot of, veteran-owned skateboard brands, and there's like a lot of veteran owned business that revolve around the skateboarding company. But I made basically a social media platform specifically for people that either serve in the military or served in the military who skateboard, and then people who skateboard that support the military. And so that's kind of, that takes up most of my free time because I do that by myself. I was a student. I just finished my my master's degree, so I'm no longer a student. And what else? I'm also a full-time nerd. I spend the rest of my time reading, studying things for fun, and watching anime. I don't know.
That's
I do.
awesome.
I'm probably forgetting a lot of stuff, but that's everything that comes off the top of my head. Oh, and obviously I'm a veteran. I served in the military. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years, hence the military skateboarding platform.
Right. Well, thank you for your service, Zach. That is really amazing. Like, I know more about you now. Like, that is like super cool. You're getting your hands into everything. That's really awesome. So why did you feel like you had to make Official Military Skate? Like, what was your thoughts behind that?
So this is actually, this is a little bit of a selfish, so it started out as like a selfish reason kind of, but it evolved into something much greater. I've talked about this before to like anybody that asks, people are all the time, they're like, like, oh, thank you so much. Like, you're the godfather of like this niche. Like, someone said it to me yesterday, and I was like, no, man. I was like, no. But they're like, the the idea stemmed from me wanting to skate at this place. So, ironically enough, because in the military, our dorms are called the barracks. And ironically, in skateboarding, there's this indoor skate park in LA, which I'm sure Dustin has probably talked to you about before, called the
My
Barracks.
brother.
Yeah. Um, and so it's like literally it is the most exclusive skate park in the entire world. Like on the front door when you show up, it says like pros only. You have to be invited. Like you have to text or call somebody to like have them come and let you in. You have to schedule it like months in advance. The only caveat to that is if you're like a professional skateboarder and sometimes so you can just like show up and skate, but they have like a very strict schedule. So it's like very hard to get in. And so back, I think it was like 2018. I was recently out of the military and I was like, man, I really want to skate the barracks, but it's so hard to get in and I don't know anybody. And so I was like, what can I do? I was like, how can I skate the barracks? And so I had this friend, Christiana, and uh, she had attended these like ladies' day skate sessions at the barracks like every year in LA that are hosted by this company called Poseidon Foundation. Shout out Michaela. So I was like, well, I want to skate the barracks. And I was like, well, what do I have for me that sets me apart that I could have my own day to like skate at the barracks? And I was like, oh, I'm a veteran. Duh. I was like, why don't I just organize a Veterans Day session? And so I was like, I'm gonna reach out to everybody at the barracks. I'm gonna blast email everybody. I'm gonna blast DM everybody on Instagram, and hopefully somebody will see it. It was like a shot in the dark, and I was like, hopefully somebody will see it, and they'll get back to me, and they'll be like, all right, cool, good idea. And so I sent like a mass. I sent like a what do you call it? Like a D-mail, a group chat on Instagram. I sent it to the two owners of the barracks. I sent it to their online store. I sent it to their filmer. I sent it to the producer. I sent it to the photographer. Like everybody that's involved in the barracks that I knew their name, I put it in a group chat. And I was like, hey, me and some veterans. And when I say me and some veterans, I mean me. I was like, we want to have a Veterans Day session at the barracks. I think that'd be really cool. I'm just trying to figure out how to go about it. And of all people that could have replied, the owner of the barracks, Steve Barra, he's a former professional skateboarder.
That's cool.
So for those of you that don't know, there's two pros that co-own it: Steve Barra and Eric Costin. Eric Barracks.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So it's spelled differently than the military dorm, but it's the same name. But so Steve Barra messaged me back and he was like, dude, I'm so down. My best friend's a Marine. Like, let's do this. And I was like, oh, sick. And so I was like, all right, this is going to be so cool. We're going to have all these veterans show up and we're going to have like this giant skate session. And it's going to be a movement, right? Like it's going to take off. I'm like, dude, I was like, it started out as me just wanting to escape the barracks. And then it extended into like, maybe this could be something. Yeah. And so I reached out to my best friend back in, he lives in Kansas now, Derek, the most talented dude on the face of the earth. Shout out Derek. So I was like, dude, I need you to make me a flyer and like, we're going to post it on social media and we're going to like post flyers around Southern California and this and that and the other. And so like, I went out posting flyers and all this stuff. And, and I can't remember exactly, but I want to say about 5 people showed up.
Yeah, that's all right.
So 5 people showed up, maybe 6. One of them showed up with food poisoning and didn't skate at all. They spent the entire night puking into a trash can. And then one of the other guys literally cut his leg open skating earlier that day. And I mean like he needed stitches, and he wrapped his leg and showed up to skate the thing with like the biggest gash in his leg. It was the most horrendous like turnout to like any event I've ever seen. It was like 5 of us, one dude's sick and one dude is like literally bleeding all over the place, but he's like wrapped up. And I'm just like, well, at least I get to skate.
Yeah.
And so, So I basically had started a social media page to like advertise the Veterans Day session kind of thing. And that's how official military skate formed, was for me wanting to skate the barracks. And the worst, it was super fun. I don't think I landed very many tricks. That floor is so slippery, but
Oh,
it was still,
okay.
it was still cool because we started out from like this little thing, and then progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're about to reach 7K on Instagram, which isn't like an insane amount for social media, but it's a decent amount.
Decent. Absolutely.
And
That
so,
is really cool. I mean, you have to start somewhere, right? Like, here's my little YouTube channel. I think I have like 16 subscribers. You know what I mean? Like, you have to start somewhere. And it's all about starting somewhere. Like, even if it was a little selfish, you got to grow out of that, where you created a freaking movement for veterans. And like, no one's ever done that. You know what I mean? So I think that is really, really cool. And you're shedding a light on our veterans and one of the most rad sports ever. I mean,
you want to hear something crazy actually about that?
yes.
You live in Colorado, right?
Yes.
I have friends that actually like in Colorado, like, and other places, like multiple people through my page. Like I had friends, one dude was in the Air Force, one dude's an Army veteran. They both live in Colorado Springs. They met on my page and they are literally best friends now because of my page. Like their wives are best friends, their families are best friends. Like they go to each other's house. Like they literally are best. They actually had started a company for a little while, literally all stemmed from my page. And like literally they're like best friends now.
That's amazing. Again, you're creating a movement because, yeah, hey, I mean, I'm a Steelers fan, but you know,
I gotta go.
Oh my God. For all you Steelers fans out there, you know, if I do live in Colorado, so I have to like go Broncos. So like, I have to ask you, so like, again, you've started a movement and you're starting to get people connected, and being connected with people is like the most beautiful thing. You know, we share our stories, we're raw, we're open, and we're learning to grow together. And this is what my channel is all about, is just like becoming like a free human. And when you get to create something, you create a movement, and you're creating a life for you. So I want to go like rewind back into your life. So I met Zach, just on the side note. My brother is a photographer. He's amazing. You can follow him on Instagram. His Instagram name is Dudeston. Dustin McWethy. He's good at everything he touches. I mean, let's be honest.
He's literally good at everything.
He's literally good at everything. And he's funny. Literally. He's such a good person to work with. And so I saw him post a picture, and it was tagged with official military skate. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I've never seen that. And then Zach and I just kind of started talking, and I started asking him, like, you know, the same question I'm asking him now, like, how did you get here? And I was like, man, that's really fascinating. And then, you know, he kind of like, I know my YouTube channel is Free Lady, but that's because I have another business, Lady in the Blade. I'm a hairdresser. So I have a lady necklace. I've been wearing it for like 25 years. So Zach was like really interested in my channel. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm getting like perspective from a guy on my channel, which it's all about like everybody, every human being. It's all for everybody. And he was like, damn, like I don't ever watch this kind of stuff. It's really amazing. I'm learning a lot. So then we kind of dove deep into his childhood, and we were kind of relating some things, and you know, how like you had a pretty traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
From what I hear. So, you know, when you are a child, you are being taught that this is the way, you know, this is how life is, because you don't know any better. So it's like graved into your skin that this is what happens when I get older. Mm-hmm. So you can talk about your childhood a little bit, but where was a point in your life that you broke free? Was it like the military, or you got away? Like, how did you come to realization that you needed to break from the rules that you were learning as a child?
Okay, yeah. I'll start with like my childhood and kind of like my background, and then the turning point for like my thought process. So I was born in Lincoln, Nebraska in 1990, and I lived
Yeah.
about 30 minutes south there in a town called Beatrice until I was about 6 or 7. And then my mother, um, yeah, my mother met some guy, many guys over the course of however long. And to put it in perspective, a lot of people ask me if I'm a military brat, which technically I am, but technically I'm not.
Mhm.
Um, between the age of between kindergarten and 8th grade, I lived in Nebraska, Missouri, New Mexico, Virginia, Texas, and I went to probably about 15 different schools
Dang.
because we were so poor and just there was like so much going on with like drama and everything that we would relocate like every other couple months or so because we would get evicted or something would happen or this, that, or the other. And we would, yeah, it was gnarly. So start out like kindergarten. Um, my mother had a pretty severe drinking problem when I was in kindergarten, 1st grade, and that was kind of like the start of it. I've talked about this to a lot of people, but I don't have the best memory, and I think a large part of that is due to like repression. I
Yeah.
remember some things from my childhood, but I don't. I remember numbers very well and like things like that. Hence working in IT. But like if you ask me what I had for breakfast yesterday, I would literally have to sit here and like really, really think about it because my memory is so bad from just my experiences in life.
Huh.
But so kindergarten started out. Um, I was in foster care for a short amount of time,
Wow.
maybe a couple. My mom said it was a day or a week or something like that, and then I went to go live with my grandmother. My brother went to go live with his dad, um, and yeah, my mother was in jail for the summer for child neglect, and her fiance at the time was in prison or jail for child abuse. That's a whole other story. But anyway, she left him, met another guy, another abusive guy. She had kicked alcohol as far as I know, but started chain smoking, and basically she kicked addiction and then started dating people with addiction.
Huh.
And she married this guy named Daniel. We called him Blue, and he was from New Mexico. And basically, again, this is probably like 1st or 2nd grade. I don't very remember it well. I don't remember very well. But the way my grandmother on my father's side tells it is that one day we were there, and the next day we were just gone, and she didn't see us for 8 years, like just gone. My mother took her 3 kids, uprooted, and left immediately for some guy she met who was on like a contract gig in Nebraska. Uprooted us, didn't tell anyone in the family she was leaving, took us to New Mexico, and she was married to that guy for 8 years. And during my childhood in New Mexico, pretty big culture shock. Um, coming from like super like country area Nebraska to like New Mexico. I went from, I don't know, not that I don't remember very well, but I do remember, I don't remember like before New Mexico very well. I remember New Mexico pretty well because I spent most of my childhood there. Uh, and being Caucasian there, I was a minority actually, and I would actually a lot of times get beat up for being white, being poor, being the smelly kid, things like that. My brother and I had to share clothes. He's a year, 9 months younger than me. We couldn't afford clothes. We couldn't afford food. We would eat at the soup kitchen if we were lucky. We were in those 8 years, we were homeless a lot of the times. I remember living in some red van. Uh, there was so much like gnarly stuff I can't remember. Like this is like this right here, just to give insight as to like how like gnarly my childhood was in terms of like being poor and like not being able to afford eating anything. My sister's 3 years older than me, and my brother is a year, 9 months younger than me. And there's a gas station in Carlsbad, New Mexico, where we live called Allsup's. And when I was in 3rd or 4th grade or however old we were at the time, a honey bun from Allsup's cost 37 cents with tax, 35 cents plus 2 cents for tax. And my sister and my brother and I, we would walk around town collecting change off the sidewalk to go buy a honey bun and split it 3 ways.
Oh my God.
That's how poor I was. Yeah.
Oh my
Most of the
God.
time we would eat from the soup kitchen or with Blue or Daniel's our in-laws that would feed us a lot too. My stepfather's grandmother, her name's Corrine. So same way with your upbringing, how you said you were raised in like a church family. For me as a child, the church was like my getaway, and that's kind of how I got away from that environment. Was I would go to church every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday. At Assembly of God churches, they have a program called Royal Rangers. It's basically the Christian version of Boy Scouts. And I owe a large portion of me kind of figuring out what was right versus what was wrong to that environment. Because my stepfather, he was super obsessed with drugs, very abusive, like just the whole 9 yards. And if it wasn't for his grandmother taking me, my brother, and my sister out of that environment and taking us to church, I don't know what would have happened with the rest of the time there. So yeah, I was in Royal Rangers. I would go to church every chance I could get. I didn't care if it was Bible study in the big church. Even if I was like falling asleep, any excuse to not be in the home was like a good excuse. Same thing with school. I excelled in school. Any excuse I could do to get more homework so I could spend less time interacting with my family, I would do it. So I was in accelerated classes at 4th grade to 8th grade. And then, so church was the first thing that kind of showed me like, this isn't the norm. Like, this is not the way you're living. It's not normal. And,
amazing.
Yeah. And so there were a lot of calls where Child Protective Services would be called and they would come and check on us and this, that, or the other. And, my mother, who I actually don't talk to either. Well, I'll go into that more. I talk to her, but very limitedly. She has custody. She has custody of my oldest nephew. That's the only reason I talk to her. But she would actually like manipulate my brother and my sister and I when we were kids. And she would say, if you tell them the truth, they're going to take you away and you're never going to see your brother and your sister again. Because you have different fathers, you will never see them again. Yeah. That's just like that is just like a tip of the iceberg of like the psychological like manipulation that we went through as kids. So going back, let's see. So that's probably around 3rd or 4th grade, and I was a really good student. I was an honor roll, very active in the church, and then so the whole time this is happening, like for the first couple of years, Blue or Danny, he was okay, and then he slowly lapsed into drugs. Probably after like 2 or 3 years into their relationship. So probably for like 5 or 6 years, it was just pure chaos, just a nightmare, like insane. And man, I don't want to give too many stories. I don't want to like. I mean, I'll tell it because I've told it a few times, but
right.
Here's another. This is a story, a couple stories that I tell people when like I describe like how bad my childhood was. So Blue was so obsessed and addicted to drugs at one point, and we were so poor. I was not allowed to go to the kitchen without permission or eat any. I wasn't allowed to make a sandwich. I wasn't allowed to make anything. I wasn't allowed to touch anything in the kitchen without permission because we were so poor. One time, I'm so poor. I'm like maybe in the 3rd or 4th grade. I snuck saltine crackers from the cupboard, put them in my pocket, went into the bathroom, ate them. I had to sneak saltine. That's not the bad part. It gets worse. So I had saltine crumbs in my pocket because I had eaten saltine crackers. And the next day, Blue, my mother's husband at the time, comes up to me and says, "Share." And I said, "What are you talking about?" I'm like maybe 10, 11 at this time. He's like, "Share." Keeps on going like this, like eyes wide, bugging out like crazy. "Share." And I'm like, literally looks at me like this, "Share." And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And he pulls up my pants that I was wearing yesterday, and he pulls out the saltine crumbs, and he was like, "Share." And I'm like, crackers? And he goes, no, this is speed. And I was like, I was in the 4th grade. I didn't even know what speed meant. I had no idea what he's talking about. And so he goes, share. And I'm like, share what? It's crackers. And he was like,
oh my God.
yeah. So he's like, share. He said he wanted me to share. I'm in the 4th grade. He asked me to share my speed, which was salting cracker crumbs in my pocket. And when I didn't share, I got my, I don't know if I can swear, but I got my ass beat.
Wow.
Severely. Yeah.
Wow.
Another story. So my biological father, I always tell people I love my real dad, but I didn't meet him until I was 14 or 15 after I left New Mexico and moved back to Nebraska. That was one of the biggest turning points was meeting my father. So growing up, my father was in jail, prison, and the brig, military prison. So he kind of hit the trifecta. But my father is one of the very few people I've ever met that is like living proof that you can turn your life around, that people change. He's still an asshole, but I love him. Sorry, I'm trying to swear too much.
I know. Sorry.
But yeah, so the first thing, so my entire childhood, another example of manipulation, my mother told me my entire childhood that my father wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. Like she was like, he doesn't believe you're his son, like doesn't think you're his, nothing this side or the other. I found out at some point in time that somebody from my mother's side of the family would, like, he had asked for a picture or something, and they sent him a picture of one of my cousins or something, and so he didn't look like him at all, and he was like, and so my mother fabricated that into, he doesn't want anything to do with you. So my sister goes to visit him in Denver, Colorado, and he sends me a Game Boy SP for my 14th birthday. And this is right before I moved back to Nebraska. And so he sends me a Game Boy SP. I'm playing it. And my mother and my stepfather ask if they can pawn it. I don't know what pawn means. And they're like, oh, we're just going to let a friend borrow it for some money. And then a friend's going to pay us a couple of bucks so they can borrow it. And I was like, yeah, sure. That sounds like, I was like, yeah, as long as I get it back, that's fine. And then I didn't realize what that meant. I just knew that they had let a friend borrow it to play it or something. The next day, or in the next couple of days, I was walking back from middle school with my best friend, Jose Ruiz, at the time. And we were walking, and he was like, oh, dude, let's go check out this shop. And it was a pawn shop, and I didn't know what a pawn shop was because I'd never been in one.
Right.
And we go in there, and my Game Boy's in there. And I'm like, wait, I thought their friend had it. And they're like, I was like, where'd you get this? It literally has like the same sticker, has my name on it, like everything. And I'm like, no way. It's like down the street from my house. And I'm like, can I get this back from you? And he's like, you have to pay me for it. And I was like, I'm, 12, 13, 14 at the time, 14 at the time. And I couldn't get it back, and I never got it back. And I swear I'm not making this up. I walk home, I open the front door of my house. Lou, Daniel, is smoking what I assume was meth or something out of a tire iron on the stove with money that he got from pawning my Game Boy.
Wow, dude.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow.
So, like I said, all right. So now that I've talked about just like a couple very small details about my childhood, and this is just like the icing on the cake. Like it goes so much worse than that, and there's so much other like generational trauma that stems from that with like my sister and my brother and this, that, and the other. But the turning point. So when I was 14, most people think I'm like your stereotypical like skateboard guitar playing kid from Nebraska. When I was 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, or mostly my like early teen years. So that did become the norm to me, like watching people do drugs, watching people fight, watching all that stuff. That was a norm in New Mexico. Like you were like, at least in Carlsbad, New Mexico, where I lived, there was like the rich kids, and then there were the rest of us. And the rest of us, like, it was just like a norm. It was just kind of like understood that once you became a teenager, you were going to be in a gang. Like you were going to be in a gang. And so I remember in my neighborhood, it was kind of like split down the middle of my trailer park. And I had this friend named Randy, and and he always told me, he's like, yeah, my 2 older brothers, like they're in this gang or whatever. And they said we can, join once we're like a certain age or whatever. And so we would just do all kinds of stupid stuff to like try to look cool to them. Like we would throw beer bottles at cars. We would break into people's trailers. We would steal stuff. I remember my mother worked at the gas station at Allsups, and I remember going in there one day pretending like, oh, hey, is Lisa working? And she had been fired for like a couple months now. And the guy was like, and he was like, I don't think so. I walked in there, just like stuffed my whole body with like sodas and candies and this, that, and the other, walked straight out, gave it all to Randy's brothers, and they would just have us do like, they'd have us steal money from trailers. They would have us, because we were kids. So like,
Right.
they're not going to, one, they're not really going to prosecute you. And two, like most of the time they're going to be like, you should know better than this. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. And then you just do it again. And so I never got like I never got too into it. We did beat the living crap out of each other and jump each other into his brother's gang. And I remember like all kinds of weird, stupid stuff that we did. We used to get in fights with the kids from the other gang on the other side of the trailer park. I remember my brother chased some kid down the street with a knife and tried to stab him. Yeah, it was pretty gnarly, but it wasn't like as bad as it could have been. I remember, this is such like a dumb thing because this is like not even cool, but I also was like very gullible because I didn't know anything. And I remember one, like I could have, so this is
very gullible.
I could have died on this one, but I remember like Randy was like, oh yeah, dude, let's like huff this or whatever, it'll get you high. And he just like grabs like a random can and we're like huffing it in the back of a boat. It was antifreeze. I huffed antifreeze as a kid because my friend told me it could get me high. Yeah. So I wasn't the brightest. I mean, I was very intellectual in school, but so this progressively got worse and worse and worse. And then it started reflecting in my grades. And by the time I was in the 8th grade, I had dropped out of every advanced placement class I was in. No more advanced placement classes. And I was just like, I can do whatever I want. And I was on the basketball team, but I was on the B team because I wasn't very good. I didn't really practice and didn't really care. And so I remember my parents never went to anything school related my entire school career. So much so that, not to caveat too much, but in the 5th grade, I won the spelling bee. I won most improved student of the month twice, and I won most improved student of the year. I won a bike. I won 2 basketballs, and I was qualified first to participate in districts. My parents forgot that I even won and didn't take me, and I couldn't go. Imagine not caring about your kids so little that you forget to, like, your kid wins a spelling bee, you don't show up, and then on top of that, you don't take them to the next competition because you don't care. So basketball season. So basketball season comes around and they don't know any better because they're not involved. And so basketball season is, like only for a couple months. They thought it was the entire year. I would just keep telling them, oh, I'm going to basketball practice. And I would just go hang out with these older kids now that were older than Randy, that were closer to my age, that were in a gang. We were starting our own gang. We would, fight people, jump people, steal from the school, everything. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And then I
gotta interrupt you for a
second.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I have to upgrade. Sorry. Hello again. Technology, we love it. So great. So getting back to Zach, finishing his story. It's a crazy story. Like I feel like my childhood was not that messed up now, but when we talk about our childhood, right? Like we all feel the same. It's just different. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like it's traumatizing because it's traumatizing how we feel it. But it's all so different and, so much more crazier. But we all share the same feeling. And that's why it's always so relatable. And, I hope people relate to your story and know that, like, look at you now, it's pretty amazing. So, we were just kind of taking off on like the fact that, no one came to support you in the things that you were doing when you were in 8th grade. So it's kind of where we left off.
Yeah. So slowly but surely finally getting to my turning point that we were talking about. So it all kind of ended it was kind of like, it was not random, but it was random in the sense that like there have been so many times where the police were called for domestic abuse or child abuse or this or the other, and nothing ever stuck. There was one summer where Blue had spent the entire summer in jail. My mother had like a new boyfriend the entire time. I barely remember it, but once it was over, got right back with them, just kept on chugging along, and the same toxic behavior just kept on progressing and progressing. And not like I can't tell you how many times the cops were called on my house as a kid. Like literally so many times. And one day, I don't know if like something just clicked in my mother's head or something or what, but
Right.
there was one day where, as any other day, my stepfather was beating the living crap out of my mother, my sister, me, and my brother. Yeah, junkies will do that. Like beating the living daylights out of us, mostly my mother. My sister would deflect a lot and try to antagonize him so that she would take the brunt of it. And one day my sister ran next door, called the police. They came, they arrested him, and that was the day that my mother was like, all right, I guess 8 years is enough of this. And moved back to Nebraska. We packed up everything. My mother hit up her parents, my grandparents in Missouri, for some money to make it back to Nebraska. We packed up everything, went back to Nebraska, and again, my grandmother on my father's side tells it like we were there one day, the next day we were gone, and then 8 years later, just randomly we show up, and I literally, if it wasn't for my grandmother on my dad's side and my cousin Zane. So my grandmother had a sister named Roberta. She went by Bert. Rest in peace. But my mother got remarried again, kept moving around, kept doing the same thing. She's on a bunch of meds now and is not as bad as she used to be, but
That's good.
there was a point where she was like, all right, we're moving again. And I was like, I'm not moving again. I was like, I am not moving to another school. I'm not doing this again. I'm tired of it. I've moved my entire life. I was like, I'm finishing high school here. I was like, I'm not going anywhere else. I'm not moving again just so you can feel better about yourself to be with another guy. Like that's not happening. And so my grandmother became my legal guardian, and her sister, Roberta, who lived closer to the school because my grandma lived out in the country. I lived with her. So the arrangement was my grandmother was my legal guardian, but I lived with her sister and her sister's grandson, Zane. And that was the arrangement. And my father sent child support to my great aunt. And she took care of me. And so my cousin Zane, who's 2 years younger than me, became my best friend. He skateboarded. My step cousins in New Mexico had skateboarded. My whole life there had been a bunch of skaters. My sister dated a bunch of skaters. I remember seeing this guy as a kid do this trick called the varial kickflip. And it's not like a crazy trick, but the same premise is like an ollie where you just jump up.
Yeah.
I literally couldn't fathom how they were levitating in the air without taking their feet off the board. Like it seemed like scientifically impossible to me. Like I was literally so blown away as a kid. And I was like, I want to do that someday. And so I didn't have any money. I was extremely poor. And my first board was actually from the first time I ever met my father. When I moved back to Nebraska, and I wasn't living with my mother anymore. Maybe I was living with her at the time, but my father was like, "You're not keeping my kids away from me anymore. I'm in Colorado. You're in Nebraska. I'm coming to see my kid." And so my dad shows up with a skateboard he bought at a sporting goods store. Nothing like super fancy. It was called Crown. It was from I forgot the sporting. It was called Crown, like Krown. And that was my first board, and that was what I learned how to skate on, because before that I had been skating on my sister's boyfriend's board or my cousin Zane's board or my step cousin's board. I never had my own board. So my first interaction with my first interaction with my father was him giving me a skateboard for my birthday. So that was one aspect of me turning my life around, getting back to Nebraska. The other aspect of it was my grandma. I owe so much to my grandma. Like
Me too.
My grandmother, because of how I grew up, and my grandmother, she was absent my whole childhood because I was gone. We just left.
Right.
She made me get a job when I was 14. She made me get my own car. She made me get my own phone. She made me do everything. She's like, you're going to get a car. You're going to get a job. You're going to get this, and you're going to learn how to pay your own bills. You're going to learn how to take care of yourself.
Yes. Let's just be thankful for fucking, oops. Let's just be thankful for grandmas. Like, I mean, I said that on my first episode and I didn't get flagged yet. So, so thankful for grandma.
I think there's a limit, but
oh, there is. Okay.
yeah, it's not like guaranteed. It depends on how many. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, my grandmother, like, if it wasn't for her, like, I don't know where I would be. Like, I would have no idea how to deal with money. I would have no idea how to take care of myself.
Right.
Or maybe I don't know. I always had the itch in the back of my head after I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 to, like, you know, maybe I'll just run away to California and try to be a pro skater. But thankfully I didn't do that. Maybe I would have made it, who knows? No. But but yeah, but when I was a kid growing up in New Mexico, like, I always had that thought in the back of my head, like, I'll just run away, and my sister ran away so many times. She always came back, but yeah, my biological father, who my real dad, who I met for the first time when I was 14, he taught me, I learned from him that you could turn your life around. And my grandmother taught me how to take care of myself. And then I finished the rest of high school, didn't really have any ambitions other than skateboarding. I spent every day in and out skateboarding. I had already kind of gotten over school. I wasn't really a big fan of school anymore, because now that I wasn't living with my mother, I was like, well, I can kind of do what I want in my free time now. So I don't have to spend my extra time doing homework just to stay out of people's attention so I don't get in trouble. And so I was like an okay student. I was like probably like a B, C student, even though I had been like honor roll advanced placement as a child. And skateboarding kind of like enveloped my life after that. I spent so much time at the skate park. I always talk about this, but I was not what you call what's the word I'm looking for? I wasn't very good with women in high school. Every girl that I ever dated in high school, my dates consisted of me taking them to the skate park and them watching me skate. Because I lived with my cousin's grandma and couldn't.
Sounds like my brother.
If you were in the bedroom, you had to have your door open or whatever. And so I was just like, all right, well, let's go to the skate park. Like, I don't want to sit here and stare at the wall, and I had nothing else on my mind. So I was like, all right, let's go to the skate park. If only, you know, Instagram had been around back there, I could have been like, hey, film me. But so my girlfriends, which not very many of them, and I would hardly call them a girlfriend, but the people I dated in high school, I was like, yeah, let's go to the skate park and you can watch me skate. And that was high school. And so I was so obsessed with skateboarding that I didn't think about other people. I didn't think about anything else. I always wanted to skate. My friends got into music. My best friend is like the most talented musician on the face of the earth. I picked up bass guitar for like a little bit to try to like play with them, but he got into guitar and I was like, nah, I was just taking away from my skateboarding. I got to go skate. And during the summertime, I would literally wake up like 10 a.m. every morning and I would skate across town 2 miles to the skate park. And I would spend from like 10 a.m. to 10, because there's curfew in my hometown. So I would spend 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. every single day at the skate park. Every single day. And the closest skate shop to my hometown is about 45 minutes away. The closest indoor skate park is about 45 minutes away. And as you know, it snows a lot in the Midwest. And so during the winter, I would just get in my car and drive up there and get Taco Bell, because that's the closest Taco Bell. Yeah, I was like, oh man, I'm living the life. I got Taco Bell and skateboarding. And then it got to the point where I was like, all right, now what? Because I was like, do I go to college? Do I do this? Do I do that? Whatever. My father comes with me to my high school graduation. He flies out for my high school graduation. And that was May 17th, 2009. And
baby,
my father, my grandfather, great grandfather, every generation before me, they're all military. My dad and my grandpa were both Marines. My dad was an infantry Marine from 87 to 91. My grandfather was a helicopter mechanic in Vietnam. And are you still there?
Yeah.
I just got a pop-up ad for something. I'll make sure. sorry. Gotta make sure I'm not. Don't want to click on anything.
Hold please. Hold please.
All right, we're good. We're good. Sorry. Yeah, I just got like a low battery notification, and I clicked on it and it tried to take me to like a suspicious ad link.
Oh, don't click on that.
Yeah. Anyway, so my dad was a Marine from 87 to 91. My grandfather was a Marine in Vietnam. My great grandfather was in the Army, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, all that. And so I remember it was partially due to like rebellion against my mother, but partially due to wanting to like carry on like the family tradition and just get away from my family, because I was fond of my family, most of them. So May 17th, I walk across the stage. My mother says, make sure you talk to all the recruiters, see what they have to offer. Don't just go in there and, whatever. May 18th, I walk up to the recruiting station. All the different branches are next to each other. The first one on the far left is the Marines. And my father is with me, who was a Marine. And I walked in and said, sign me up. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm not going to, half-ass it. I'm going to do I'm going to do everything, do the hardest thing possible. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Like, I want to prove myself, kind of thing. Like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Break from your cycle, from your past,
And so I walked in, said, sign me up. And then I shipped later in the year in December. One of the things I attribute my success to today, because I make a very good living as a network engineer for the DoD. And so when I went to sign up, I had just finished reading this book called Generation Kill. If you haven't read it, it is so good. Not for the faint of heart, not for everybody. It's written from the perspective of a Rolling Stones reporter that was attached to a reconnaissance platoon of Marines in Iraq. They actually made a mini series about it on HBO. But so the book is from the perspective of the journalist or reporter. And I remember I had just finished reading it and I was like, dude, these guys are so gangster, like they're badass. And I was like, I'm gonna do this. I was like, I'm gonna be like the elite of the elite. I'm gonna be special forces, this, that, and the other. And like I'm sitting there like just babbling away to this recruiter who's just like, sure. And my dad sits, and so one thing about me, I'm not a good swimmer. I'm from a landlocked state. And so my dad sits there and he just looks at me and he goes, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, dude, you can't even swim. He's like, well, they can teach him to swim. And I was like, I'm not a very good swimmer. And I was like, I barely passed like the basic swim. I can shoot all day, but swimming, not my forte.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, he looks at the guy and he says, and I quote, he goes, I'm not going to have my only son be a bullet catcher. Give this guy a job he can do when he gets out of the military, because my dad was infantry. He served with a lot of people that were infantry and died. And he was like, I'm not having my only son be a bullet catcher. Give him a job he can do when he gets out of the military. And so they pitched me all these ideas and stuff. And it was a whole convoluted process. But then like a week before I left, I ended up in a job called, what was it? Field wireman. And it was some guy that ran cables from point A to point B, plugging in phones. And then eventually that evolved. In the 8 years I was in, my job evolved like 4 times. So that turned into a tactical switchboard operator, which is like a tactical version of those people that, do calls or whatever.
Yeah.
And then that escalated to, it's still called tactical switchboard operator. But then the Marine Corps got a contract with Cisco. And we had to learn voice over IP. So I went to all these courses and learned computer networking. And so I'm a phone guy, and there's these computer guys that I'm working with. And these computer guys that are doing all the computer stuff are getting crazy bonuses. They're getting promotion super fast, like very easy. They're getting all these like benefits and bonuses, and I'm getting nothing. And I was like, well, I know their job better than some of these guys. So why don't I figure out why they're getting all the money? And so I was like, okay. So the certs that they have to have to be an administrator in the DoD pay very handsomely on the outside. So the military is like, hey, we'll keep you if you get those certs for us, we'll give you a bunch of money. We'll give you fast promotion. We'll set you up. Even though if they got out, they would make 3 times as much money. And so I'm not in their job, but I'm like, well, why don't I go get those certs? So I got into a position where I was like, I was the chief of my job, and I was able to basically be like, hey, I'm in a position where I can go take those courses. So I went and learned their job more or less, just to dumb this down. Not dumb this down, but just to simplify it, I basically went, learned their job, got their certifications. So even though I don't qualify for their bonuses and promotions because I'm not in their job, I have their certifications and I can make that money on the outside world. So I went from being some guy that runs wires to being some guy that plugs in phones to being some guy that understands computer networking for phones to learning the computer side of it. That's in 8 years. And then I got out. I've probably worked 3 or 4 jobs. I upgraded all of Camp Pendleton to Windows 10, and then I did a stint at the network operating center on Camp Pendleton, and then built my resume. And between so I have 12 certifications in IT. I have a bachelor's degree in computer networking and cybersecurity. I just finished my master's in business administration. My current job that I have, I got with 2 of those certifications and military experience, making 6 figures. And so and I also have like a crazy lax schedule. Like I work from home, I work the lab maybe once or twice a week. I have every other Friday off. I have PTO, plus I go to like other countries and do installs in like Japan and Singapore and Romania and all kinds of stuff. So I have a bunch of free time. I get paid decently. I have all these like benefits for my job because my dad said that one sentence. He said, give this guy a job he can do when he gets out. So
and it's kind of like, you get all this like gratitude from, maybe one sentence, because it's like, you kind of lost your childhood a little bit of like being a kid, and now you're blessed with like, making good money, but fighting for you. You basically fought for yourself this whole time, whether you knew it or not, so you had to have learned that from something or seen something. And now you have the ability to have your official military skate. You have this really amazing job, and you probably have gotten to grow all this confidence, on your own, which makes you even stronger. And now you have this free time to live, because that's what it's all about, like working hard and having the ability to live and say yes to life,
Yeah. So
that's amazing.
So it stems from a couple of things, like you said. So one thing I always kind of told myself, so one, I always attribute part of it to middle child syndrome, like that need for attention or whatever, where like I'm just so overly competitive for no reason because I didn't get enough attention as a child, which is fine, but I recognize it as an adult, and I don't need attention anymore. But and the biggest thing is I always told myself, like, you can, like you said, you can fall into that lifestyle or you can get out of it. And I always saw that as a kid, and I was just like, why are we living like this? Why is this happening? And so the biggest attribution to my success is I always told myself, I will never end up like this. I'm never going to live like this. This is never happening.
Right.
And I hate to say it, but every other person in my family, save a few, fell into that trap. My sister is, no, I don't want to go too much into it. My sister pretty much lives like my mother lived. My brother, not as much, but being like the baby of the family, like he can't live without someone telling him what to do. My sister turned into my mother. My brother is insanely codependent, can't function for himself. I love them to death, but not for me. And so I always tell everybody there's a reason why I live in California and the rest of my family lives in Nebraska. Like I don't need their toxicity affecting my life.
Right.
And like you said, just because you're related to somebody doesn't mean you have to deal with their drama or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so I do only limit myself to like certain family members that I'm there for. One of the biggest thing. So my sister has 5 kids. Currently, she has custody of none of them. One lives with a foster family. Krista, my niece, love her to death, sweetest little girl in the place. Well, I can't say little anymore, she's a teenager now, but sweetest girl on the face of the earth. Dakota, the oldest, he reminds me a lot of me. So, and then the other 3 boys are with her soon-to-be ex-husband, and they're living with their mother, their grandmother on their father's side. And so the biggest thing for me is, even though I limit myself to my family member, I do my absolute best to stay in contact with them and try to be a role model for them. I flew my nephew out. My oldest nephew. I flew him out here for his 16th birthday. And I was like, when your brothers are, about this age, I'm going to do the same to them. I showed him around, showed him how I live, showed him what I do on a day-to-day basis,
Yes.
showed him my work, showed him how I live. And I was like, the way you're living in Nebraska, that's not normal. That's not a norm. I was like, the way I'm living might not necessarily be a norm, but it's something that you can easily obtain if you get a head start, because I didn't start until I was almost 30. I was like, you're 16. If you start right now, educating yourself and like being ambitious, you will surpass me. And that's what I want.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, my coach with through the Lions Den, Sean Whalen, talks about this all the time, how he's just transparent with his kids and family members. And, and it's a beautiful thing that you can see that and just be like, this is how I live. This is what I'm doing, and show them that this is not their life that they have to live. And that is such a beautiful thing. And I think, when you start like, making money and you start being able to, do more things, giving back is like so important. Giving back, and you're giving back to being a role model to your family and showing them like, who do I have to become? Who do you have to become to get here? Because anything is possible, and I think it's really hard, it takes a lot to like say no to toxic people. I hate that. Like, I don't like that I don't have a good relationship with my mom, and a lot of people do. And it kind of makes you like, man, that sucks. But I have a beautiful relationship with my uncle. You know what I'm saying? I had a beautiful relationship with my grandma and my siblings. I'm so thankful for that. And those people aren't, going to bring me down or not love me. They're going to support me, and they're going to love me the way I deserve to be loved. And that's growing too. You know what I mean? And so, but I'm so like amazed. I'm so amazed because you did a lot of this on your own. You found this on your own. And it could be from like, growing up in the church. Like, I think me growing up in the church was really, really awesome, even though I was shamed in the end. But I still had a great time. And you learn, just to like believe in something bigger than you. And maybe that was a part of you. Maybe that was, who knows, but someone was watching out for you, Zach, and like pushed you to be who you are today, because you were meant to, do what you're going to do, and then have this official military skate and open up like to veterans, and having the possibility, like making that a military sport, and just giving back and showing, community and positivity in what you're doing is just, it's really amazing. And you should absolutely be proud of that, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I will say the biggest thing I think that attributed to that, yes, I did do the vast majority of it by myself, but in the military, specifically the Marine Corps, because that's what I know. So we have a mixed martial arts program. Some people make fun of it, but I mean, it is what it is. But
it's all good.
No. It's like a weird hybrid of like multiple mixed martial arts with like modern warfare. So like I'll be like, oh, I have a black belt in Marine Corps mixed martial arts. Doesn't really mean much. Doesn't mean really not fight. But one of the things about it that I always loved was they always harped on the what they call the eternal student. And so what that means is, as an eternal student, you are always learning more, and you're always bettering yourself. You should always challenge yourself and always better yourself. Every time you set goals and accomplish them, set more goals, accomplish those. Just keep progressing to the point where might sound bad to say like, oh, hey, you're never satisfied, but that's the way you keep evolving, like by continuing to push yourself and progressing. And so that was one thing that I always took very seriously, was I would set goals. And in the Marine Corps specifically, depending on what rank you are, you have evaluations every so often. So for the younger guys is every month, for the older guys is every quarter or semi-annually or whatever. And you have a mentor assigned to you, and they sit down with you and they come up with personal goals, professional goals, spiritual goals if you seek them, etc., combat related goals, and whatever your goals are. They sit down with you. And that was one thing that I absolutely loved doing in the military. Like, I loved it so much because I got to help people. I got to watch them grow. One of my proudest, like, honestly, like, it was cool to grow as a person. It's cool to do like a lot of stuff that I did. One of my proudest moments like ever in my life was I had this Marine in North Carolina in 2012 to 2013 to 2014. A super young guy, like E1, E2 in the military, Marine Corps. His name was William Wong. And when I got out of the military, he got assigned. He was still active duty when I got out of the military, and he actually got, so we both worked in IT. I was working on Camp Pendleton in Oceanside, California, and he got stationed there in the exact same building as me as an E5. And I got to promote as a civilian. I see him, 4 or 5 years later, 6 years later, and I got to promote him to staff sergeant.
Wow. That is so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I mean, just that's what I've been learning too, since I've been in my coaching group, is like, you have your core four, which is passion, purpose, production, and power. And basically that's your business, your relationships, your mind, and your body. And, you set up like every 90 days, you change those goals, and every 90 days you make them bigger. And it's crazy. Like, it's the most simplest thing, like having goals, like, and if you achieve them, you're like, holy shit, like I freaking did that. You know what I mean? Like, one thing I'm working on right now is read 5 pages of book every day, because I don't like reading, I like listening to it. But I want to, but I love reading self-help books. I'll read those all day long. And so like, I'm like, I just have to do this, like, so I can build up to, because that's how you grow, is you got to read, And so I think goals are something really, really great. And do you still do that to this day? Like,
yeah, I was gonna say, if I showed you my planner, it would look like it looks absolutely chaotic, because I have every week I write down all my goals for the week and stuff that I need to do, whether it's like errands or things I want to do for military skate, video projects, this or the other, and then I scribble it all out. So it's just super chaotic. So I do that. But so the finance or the reading thing. So the Eternal Student, that's actually how once I started making money, was like, I didn't really know what to do with it. And so like more recently I got into like personal finance and like investing, and I like own real estate now and all kinds of stuff. Like, I own a house and I have my apartment and like all this other stuff because of that Eternal Student mindset. I was like, all right, I have money. Like, now I broke out of that cycle. I broke out of that like mindset as a kid. Now I have this money, and I was at this point where I was like, now what? Like, I don't know what to do next. What's like the next step, whatever. And then there was like that whole thing a couple of years ago where like the interest rates dropped super low. And I'm really big on networking and growing like my skateboarding community. So like a fun fact, my real estate agent was a pro skateboarder, because I was like, I'm gonna kill 2 birds in 1 stone. One, I'm gonna dip my way into the skateboarding community, and he's gonna help me out with my apparel and stuff. And he's been like a really good friend. His name is Matt Miller. Great guy, great human being, helped me so much with my house. And then I basically took, so I was able to network into the skateboarding community, and I was able to use my money that I was starting to make and create more money by investing in real estate and investing in things like compound interest, like 401ks, Roth IRAs, et cetera, this, that, and there. And so like, I have a bunch of books up here. So I have IT books, I have finance books, I have self-help books, I have autobiographies of famous musicians, etc. But like, I am such a fan of like learning things. I love reading. But I'm like, to put it in perspective, I'm such a nerd that I will literally I'll just be like, oh, you know what? I wonder what this word is in that language, and I'll just look up a new language and try to learn words because I'm bored, or like I'll have like an impulsive thought where I'm like, I should learn this.
Wow.
I was also in station / deployed to like 6 or 7 different countries, so I speak it. So that not to go off on too much of a tangent, but I like studying things for fun. I like learning things. So like that eternal student thing is like so ingrained in me that I literally just look at things for fun.
So that's a great tip, like be an internal student like this. I mean, I'm definitely like, I know like there's so much information that we don't utilize as like human beings. It's like all right there. Like every like mastermind or multi-billionaire that I've ever seen speak, like just recently, especially through like my coaching group, it's all right there. It's just putting the work into it's moving, it's going with the momentum and not stopping. So, with that said, I'm going to wrap this up a little bit. Because, we got to make sure that our viewers watch the whole thing, but like, what is something that you would say to someone that's watching this right now? Like if they feel stuck and they've had a traumatizing childhood and blah, 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 blah. What is one thing or a couple things that you would tell somebody, like even showing your nephews around, or your cousins or whatever, like how you live, but what would you tell maybe your future self or your past self of like, what's the biggest thing to keep you going and never stop quitting?
Have you ever seen the movie The Crow?
Yes.
It can't rain all the time.
That's
So
right.
that's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Basically what that means is whenever things are bad, that just means there's a chance for them to get good. So life is a cycle of ups and downs. It's going to be bad. When it's bad, it's going to be good. And when it's good, it's going to be bad again. It's to be expected. You can't stop it. It's just an inevitability. But what you have to know is that it's not permanent. The situation you're in, as long as you have the determination and willpower to turn it around, you can very much do so. Where there's a will, there's a way. And to go with a couple of different quotes about the same thing, it can't rain all the time. And cage the elephant. Even on a cloudy day, I'll keep my eyes fixed on the sun.
Yes. And that's like being free, right? That is the path to being free. It's breaking the chains and it's creating your life of being a free man. And that is beautiful. That is so beautiful. I love those quotes. I'm going to probably write those down. Maybe I'll have it as a title of this YouTube channel. But Zach, I am so thankful to have randomly met you. So cool. And I'm excited that you have had people come and follow me. I really appreciate you. I'm actually interviewing one of your friends that you sent to me on Saturday. So this is a cool momentum. I'm really excited to do this. And I'm really grateful. I have so much gratitude that, you're my first interview. I think it was kind of like just meant to be that energetic world, so thank you so much for sharing your story. I was almost getting a little teary eyed with some of the things, but like you're out of it and it made you who you are today. You're so strong and you're so powerful and you're heading in this direction to help your life, to help your veterans, and you're making a movement, and that's really, really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I have to give one plug before we finish this, just to make sure it's edited in. So just to go with skateboarding and helping veterans, shout out 6 Feet Above. Go to 6feetabove.org and donate if you can. It's a veteran nonprofit owned by two of my very good friends, Benji and Riley. They're both Marine Corps veterans, and their mission is to shred the trend of veteran suicide with skateboarding.
Oh.
So they do retreats that basically build that camaraderie and that unit cohesion you had in the military, and that camaraderie you had in the military. They're recreating it through skateboarding for veterans, and just know that you're not alone. And if you need someone to talk to, reach out to somebody. And again, 6feetabove.org, if you can donate even like $1, whatever you can. But their mission is like, I love telling people about it. It's amazing. I love them. They're the best people I know. Anyway, so shout out 6feetabove.org.
That's awesome. I will put it in the link below so people can do that. So if anyone has can't come this far to watch this whole thing, thank you so much. Zach and I are very appreciative of all of you. And if you can go onto that website, donate $1 to a good cause, because that's what we need. We need help, with our veterans, with, anyone who's mentally ill, we need to help them as much as we can. So thanks again. I hope yes, all the love, man, all the love. I hope I can put these videos together.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you so much. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. And thank you. Very grateful.
Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later, dude. Peace out. Wait,
Right.
what did I just
Oh,
do?
that's I love you. No, wait.
All of it. Yeah. I love you. Rock on. Love, peace, all the things. Hang loose. Us Californians. All right, man. I'm going to press stop. Take care, guys. We'll see you next time.